The next day, He overheard colleagues discussing He Qingwan and Li Shuai at the company. She turned to her colleague Zhao Ting and asked, Ting Ting, what happened to them? The previous incident where they made things difficult for He was known throughout the company. On the surface, it was an attempt to humiliate He, but in reality, it was an insult to the company, leaving the employees feeling disgraced. Zhao Ting, who particularly disliked them because of this, deliberately raised her voice so more people could hear. You still don't know? Those two bitches were beaten and hospitalized. He was stunned. Who did it? Zhao Ting pouted. Who knows? They walked the night roads too often and ran into ghosts. They usually relied on the Li family's backing to act like tyrants, and after too much mischief, they finally met their match. Yang Yi's call came at just the right time, asking Hu to come to his office. Hu didn't inquire further, but after seeing Yang Yi, she understood the situation more clearly. It was rumored that He Qingwan and Li Shuai were beaten last night, and the perpetrators still hadn't been found. The Li group had been alerted and had dispatched people to investigate. Serves them right for bullying others. This is what happens when evil reaches its peak. Retribution eventually comes. Yang Yi snorted coldly. But whoever did it certainly has guts. How badly is He Qingwan injured? Can she still compete? He was worried that if He Qingwan was severely injured and withdrew, her participation would be meaningless. I don't know the specifics yet, but I've already had someone keep an eye on it. Yang Yi changed the subject. I called you here to talk about Su Xiaoyang. What about teacher Su? She hoped he hadn't also been beaten. If so, she couldn't help but suspect Mu Qianfan, as she had just mentioned Su Xiaoyang to him yesterday. He suddenly proposed to terminate his contract, willing to pay compensation rather than continue training. Yang Yi looked at Hu thoughtfully. What happened between you two? What? He was now certain Mu Qianfan was behind it. Director, please wait for me. I need to make a call. Without waiting for Yang Yi's response, she left the office, found a secluded spot, and dialed Mu Qianfan's number. This was her first time calling him directly. Seeing Hu's incoming call, Mu Qianfan, who was in a meeting, quickly paused it to answer. Everyone present was stunned. Someone's call was more important than the meeting. Hello, Hu. Mu Qianfan had just started speaking when Hu's question interrupted him. Mu Qianfan, were you responsible for what happened to He Qingwan, Li Shuai, and Su Xiaoyang? He had been out all night, and now incidents had occurred. Who else could it be but him? Your first time calling me is to question me? Mu Qianfan felt a stab of pain. He had been so happy, even pausing a meeting for her. Just answer me, was it you? He also felt she was being a bit excessive, but she was genuinely anxious. What if it was? What if it wasn't? Mu Qianfan's tone grew colder. Have you forgotten our 3-chapter agreement? He had agreed so readily then, yet now he was beating people and terminating contracts without a word. This was what bothered her most. What do you take yourself for, and what do you take me for? I am your husband. When another man lays hands on you, what do you expect me to do? Be a spineless coward. But it was just a work relationship. Hu explained, feeling a little guilty herself. I know better than you whether it was a work relationship. I know even more clearly what kind of people are behind him and what his sordid intentions are. Not everyone is as naive as you. Mu Qianfan hung up the phone. Hu stood holding her phone for a long time, unable to react. From his last words, it was clear he knew far more than she did. But why hadn't he told her? Back in the director's office, Hu didn't mention Mu Qianfan, only explained Su Xiaoyang's situation, which made Yang Yi furious. Why didn't you tell me about such a big matter? Do you think I'm dead? Hu explained, because I knew you'd get angry and might give up halfway. We don't have much time as it is. Yang Yi was speechless, so he changed the subject. Don't worry, I'll find you a teacher as soon as possible. For today, just go to the practice room and train by yourself. He went to the practice room, but her mind couldn't settle. Mu Qianfan's words kept echoing in her head. Although she didn't think she was wrong, she had used the wrong approach. If she had spoken to Mu Qianfan with a different tone and attitude, the outcome wouldn't have been this. They had clearly been arguing just now, and she had instigated it. After a long struggle, Hu picked up her phone and sent a message to Mu Qianfan to apologize. I'm sorry, my attitude was bad. Mu Qianfan received the message, glanced at it, but didn't reply. He wanted to use this to show Hu that as a man, he had principles, and as a husband, he had to maintain his dignity. Hu waited for a while with her phone, received no reply, then put it down and continued training. She didn't know that Mu Qianfan was waiting for her message. Her sincerity wasn't enough. After waiting a long time and not receiving any more messages from Hu, Mu Qianfan started to wonder if he should reply, but after thinking it over, he decided against it. He couldn't compromise again and again. In the afternoon, he received a call from He Qingwan. She initially didn't want to answer, but thinking the matter involved Mu Qianfan, she decided to take the opportunity to inquire about their investigation. Hello, Hu, who exactly is that man? Have you two gotten your marriage certificate? He Qingwan's opening was a question, making Hiyu experience Mu Qianfan's feelings. This morning, she had called Mu Qianfan with the same tone and attitude, and it was indeed uncomfortable. How could she treat him like that? He was clearly doing everything for her good. You don't even know who he is, yet you dare provoke him? He Qingwan, a brain is a good thing. Don't just treat it as an accessory. He retorted using a phrase she had accidentally seen online. He Qingwan hated such sarcasm the most, gritting her teeth in anger. Hiyu, don't get ahead of yourself. No matter how powerful he is, he can't fight the Li family. Hiyu sneered. If you're so confident, then why are you asking me if we got our marriage certificate? He Qingwan smugly replied, Humph, I just wanted to remind you if you really did get married, then just wait to become a widow. The Li family won't let him go. Hiyu mocked. You can only rely on your body to gain the Li family's power. But borrowing a knife to kill someone is very dangerous. Be careful the knife doesn't hurt yourself. He Qingwan countered. Me relying on my body? Humph, you talk as if you're so pure. Didn't you also use your body to please that man? Hiyu neither interrupted He Qingwan nor retorted, merely gave two aloof laughs before hanging up. They had already suspected Mu Qianfan, but it seemed they also doubted his identity. Did he really have other identities besides being the CEO of Xinhua Media? The way he acted so arrogantly at the He family's house certainly didn't seem like a minor CEO. But if he truly had a prominent identity, why would he marry someone like her who had no background? Hiyu also began to suspect. The phone call in the morning put Mu Qianfan in a bad mood all day. He didn't go home after work, and Hiyu waited until very late, calling him after much hesitation. Mu Qianfan was waiting for Hiyu's call, but he was supposed to be off work at 6, and she didn't call until past 10. It seemed she wasn't worried about anything happening to him at all. In a fit of anger, Mu Qianfan hung up the phone. He worried that Mu Qianfan had been retaliated against by the He family or the Li family, and that his phone had fallen into someone else's hands. Not giving up, she kept calling. Mu Qianfan glanced at the caller ID and hung up again. Didn't she have the patience to wait this late to call? Then let's see how many calls she could make to him, and if it was as insincere as her apology texts. Hiyu called again. The moment he hung up, she redialed. The more she called, the more anxious she became, fearing that the next time she'd hear a phone switched off message. After several attempts, Mu Qianfan finally answered, but he didn't speak. He was waiting for Hiyu to talk, to see what her first words would be after calling so urgently. Hello, Mu Qianfan? Hiyu's voice trembled slightly. She was afraid of hearing someone else's voice. Yes. Mu Qianfan replied with a single, cold word. Where are you? Why aren't you home yet? It's so late. Hiyu secretly breathed a sigh of relief, then in her urgency, forgot to mind her tone and attitude, and began to question him. Mu Qianfan. This woman just loved to interrogate. Was she a professional interrogator in prison in her last life? Hiyu didn't get an answer and realized she had made another mistake. She quickly explained, I'm sorry. I was too anxious, but I really wasn't interrogating you, Just what? Hiyu's words stopped abruptly, and Mu Qianfan had to press her. I was afraid something happened to you. He Qingwen called me this afternoon. They already know you were responsible for what happened last night, so I was afraid. She was truly scared. Don't be afraid, I'll be right back. Wait for me. Hearing Hiyu personally say she was afraid something happened to him, and remembering how her voice had trembled at first, the knot in Mu Qianfan's heart finally loosened. Long after the call ended, Hiyu still held her phone, staring blankly. She didn't know why she had blurted out her true feelings. She wasn't ready to accept him yet. Mu Qianfan returned quickly. As for how many red lights he ran on the way, he didn't care at all. All he cared about was that Hiyu now cared about him and needed him. That fast. Seeing Mu Qianfan enter, he was still a little disbelieving. If he had been at the company, it would have been impossible for him to return so quickly, unless he was nearby. You don't want me back quickly? Mu Qianfan didn't even change his shoes, walking quickly towards Hiyu. I'm sorry, I made you worry. And he had done it on purpose. It's good that you're okay. Seeing Mu Qianfan standing perfectly fine in front of her, Hiyu finally completely relaxed. Having you worry about me, even if something did happen, it would be worth it. Mu Qianfan chuckled softly. If I died because of it, maybe you'd even shed a few tears for me. Don't talk nonsense, you wouldn't. Hiyu couldn't bring herself to say the word, and pretended to be fierce. Don't ever say that word again, and certainly don't joke about it. Okay, whatever makes you happy. Seeing that Hiyu wouldn't even let him say the word die, Mu Qianfan felt even happier. Hiyu felt the atmosphere was too awkward, so she quickly got up and went to the bedroom. Then she remembered a question about Mu Qianfan's identity and the reason he married her, which she felt it was necessary to clarify. Mu Qianfan happily took a shower, then came out wrapped in a bath towel, revealing his muscular physique and sexy long legs, with his wet hair still dripping water. He glanced, then quickly looked away. It was already awkward enough for a single man and woman to be in the same room. If he pulled a stunt like that, wasn't he trying to tempt someone into sin? Mu Qianfan deliberately showed off his figure, and seeing that He actually looked away and wouldn't meet his gaze, he was somewhat deflated, but quickly adjusted his mindset. He waited, leaning against the headboard, until Mu Qianfan had dried his hair, put on his pajamas, and gotten into bed, before speaking solemnly. Mr. Mu, I have two questions I want to ask you. Mu Qianfan also leaned against the headboard, looking at He with interest.
Oh,
What questions? He met Mu Qianfan's gaze directly. Besides being the CEO of Star Moon Media, do you have any other identities? And why did you suddenly marry me? Yes, I'm also He's husband. Mu Qianfan said very seriously, not like he was joking. I married you because you're different from other women. Men always love to say things like, you're not like those seductive sluts out there, or you little tormenting imp. You wouldn't fall for that. If you don't want to say, then let's pretend I didn't ask. Even though Mu Qianfan's expression and tone were very serious, his answer still made He feel he was being perfunctory. He lay down after speaking. She didn't even have a family background, let alone any exploitable value. The only thing she had was her body. If you wanted it, fine. Are you angry? Mu Qianfan leaned over to look at Hiyu. There were some things he didn't want to say, not because he didn't want to, but because he was afraid he'd scare her. There's nothing to be angry about. It's late, let's sleep. Hiyu felt Mu Qianfan's breath on her, a strange tingly sensation, and quickly moved towards the edge of the bed. Regarding Su Xiaoyang, I want to explain something. Mu Qianfan felt it was necessary to make Hiyu more vigilant, so he told her about the dealings between Su Xiaoyang, Li Shuai, and He Qingwan. After hearing Mu Qianfan's words, Hiyu finally understood what he had done for her. Thank you, and I'm sorry. I shouldn't have treated you like that this morning. Hiyu genuinely thanked Mu Qianfan and apologized. Thank me for what? If I don't protect my own wife, should I let someone else do it? As a man, as a husband, this is my responsibility, and I'm honored to do it. The better Mu Qianfan behaved, the more he felt she was not doing enough. The more responsible he was, the more incompetent she appeared. Could she really maintain such a marital relationship? She didn't mind being his real wife now, but ever since her last suggestion to consummate the marriage was rejected, she had vowed never to bring it up again, and she didn't have the face to open her mouth about it. Mu Qianfan saw Hiyu's gratitude and seized the opportunity to persuade her. Since Jaren Company is so dangerous and Su Xiaoyang is gone, why don't you come to my company? Otherwise, I won't feel at ease. Hiyu refused without even thinking. No need. Director Yang said he would find another teacher. He's always efficient. I'm sure he'll find one quickly. Why Yang Yi again? Mu Qianfan got angry as soon as he heard that name. Did she have to force him to make Yang Yi disappear? But once Hiyu found out, she probably wouldn't forgive him for the rest of her life. Looking at Hiyu, who was so close yet not opening up to him, Mu Qianfan didn't dare take that risk. He could only think of other ways, and luckily, he was clever enough to quickly come up with a good plan. For 2 consecutive days, Hiyu practiced by herself in the training room. Yang Yi would occasionally drop by for a look, sometimes not even saying a word to her, and Hiyu had no idea he'd been there. As she was preparing to go to work that day, Mu Qianfan suddenly told her, "Don't rush, I'm going to the company with you today." Hiyu's eyes darkened. But I said I wouldn't leave Jaren Company. Director Yang attaches great importance to the competition and has invested so much in me. I can't just abandon him midway. Yang Yi invested a lot in her, but hadn't he, Mu Qianfan, also invested? It really seemed he had to keep an eye on things himself, otherwise, if this continued, her heart would be completely taken by Yang Yi. I'm going to Jaren Company too. Mu Qianfan went to get his coat and car keys, preparing to leave. Why are you suddenly going to Jaren? Is it to cause trouble for Director Yang? Or to demand her from him? It now belongs to Xinghua Media. This was the solution Mu Qianfan came up with. He acquired Jaren Company, and then openly went to the company to watch over his wife. Previously, Li Group had approached Yang Yi, failing to poach talent. They tried to acquire the company, but unfortunately, neither succeeded. His side, however, proceeded very smoothly, and Li Group was furious when they heard the news. It was said that Li Group had once sent people to threaten Yang Yi and Zhao Dongliang, but those two were not afraid of them at all, and even issued a stern warning. Our new boss is not someone you can mess with. Everyone who knew about Jaren Company's acquisition was curious who this new boss was, who could make Zhao Dongliang and Yang Yi stand so tall and dare to defy Li Group. Later, someone discovered that Jaren Company belonged to Xinghua Media, and their curiosity grew. Most people only knew Xinghua Media had a young CEO named Mu Qianfan and hadn't heard of him having powerful backing. In a place like Linjiang City, there were truly very few people who could disregard Li Group. So those few individuals or families were scrutinized and suspected one by one. He was stunned for a long moment before she came back to her senses. Mu Qianfan, what exactly do you want to do? He acquired their company without even a word, just because she refused to go to Xinghua Media. Mu Qianfan said righteously, I don't want to do anything. I can only feel at ease watching over my own wife myself. You don't tell me anything, so I had no choice but to resort to this last option, to prevent others from taking advantage. These others didn't just include Yang Yi, but also ill-intentioned people like He Qingwan and Li Shuai. If He hadn't let slip about Su Xiaoyang's matter last time, he wouldn't have known. Everything he did was to protect her, and He couldn't really say anything to him. He hadn't done anything wrong, merely trying his best to be a good husband, and he had that right. He sighed helplessly. Acquire it if you want, I have no right to interfere. But I have one request. Please keep our relationship a secret. I just want to work normally and not receive special treatment. So you can't commute with me? At the company, we'll only have a superior-subordinate relationship, right? Mu Qianfan knew she wouldn't compromise with him, and even if she did, there would be conditions. Yes, that's what I mean. But we're not superior and subordinate. You're the boss, I'm just an employee. He widened the gap between their identities. Whatever makes you happy. Then I'm off to work. See you at the company. Mu Qianfan didn't wait for He Yu and was the first to leave. He Yu's mood was incredibly complex. She never imagined that Mu Qianfan would actually acquire a company for her. Should she say he was bold, or that he was too crazy? Mu Qianfan had Wen Jin specifically choose the best female teacher from Xinghua Media to train He Yu, so there would be no chance of her being taken advantage of. This person's name was Yi Luo, nicknamed Mistress Exterminator. It was said that she was also a model in her youth, and later had a daughter, Yi Yunxi, out of wedlock. Her daughter herself was a signed model with Xinghua Media and had gained some recognition in the industry. He didn't know Yi Luo, didn't know about her past or her nickname. At first glance, she thought Yi Luo seemed gentle and dignified and spoke softly. Surely, she would be easy to get along with. Yi Luo had already reviewed He's profile beforehand and thought He's physical attributes were good. Coupled with her training, it wouldn't be difficult for her to stand out in the competition. She was very confident. She had He do some basic movements to tailor a training plan. Then she asked her to change into high heels and walk the runway, but He not only didn't have high heels, she couldn't even wear them properly. What exactly are you doing? There are only a little over 2 months left until the competition, and you can't even wear high heels properly? Do you intend to walk the show in flats? You're just a rookie who knows nothing. Your basic movements are sloppy. The only thing presentable is your looks. But can looks feed you? I thought the company had given me a promising talent, but it turns out I'm being set up. How much have I been through to get to where I am today, only to have it ruined by you? Yi Luo became completely ferocious, as if she was a different person, pointing at He Yu and scolding her relentlessly. He Yu didn't even get a chance to interject, secretly sighing that one really couldn't judge a book by its cover. Once she started this mode, she couldn't stop. She lectured for several tens of minutes, with hardly any repetition in her words. The insults were as harsh as they could be. How many people had cried bitterly and questioned their lives after being scolded by her, and many even changed careers because of it. But those who remained developed well, and gave her that nickname. He Yu admitted she couldn't wear high heels, but that didn't mean she was wrong. With her height, she didn't usually need to wear high heels and had never thought she would embark on this path. If you lose confidence because I can't wear high heels well right now, then I don't mind switching teachers. After all, my time is limited, and I have no time to waste listening to you scold me. Not to mention that Mu Qianfan was now the boss of Jiren Company. Even if it were still Zhao Dongliang and Yang Yi, he would dare to say this, because she had confidence to overcome difficulties, but she needed a good teacher. You dare to speak to me like that? You haven't even stepped onto the runway yet, and you already think you're a big star? It was the first time Yi Luo had been talked back to while scolding someone, and her temper flared immediately. He's voice was cool and clear. This has nothing to do with whether I've been on a runway or if I'm a big star. What I'm upholding now is the basic respect a person deserves. She believed she had treated Yi Luo respectfully since they met. She had told Yang Yi beforehand about not being able to wear high heels well, and it wasn't an intentional deception. Yi Luo had no right to insult her because of it. Perhaps you think you have status and position and don't need to respect a rookie like me. But I'm sorry, I don't like being yelled at like this for such a matter. Please continue, I'm leaving first. After He Yu finished speaking, she actually went to change her clothes and leave. She intended to find Yang Yi. If the teacher had this kind of attitude, it would be difficult for her to continue training. It would be better to switch to someone else, to avoid wasting time. Who do you think you are? Your temper is even worse than mine? Do you think you're someone important? Yi Luo roared at He Yu's retreating back and then received a phone call. The call was from Wen Jin. Yi Luo, do you and your daughter still want to stay in this industry? Yi Luo immediately lowered her stance. Assistant Wen, it's not that I don't want to. It's just that when Jean had no time to listen to explanations and the higher up wouldn't give a chance for explanations. She is a key talent our company is cultivating. How much time you have left? You figure it out yourself. Yi Luo took a deep breath before she could calmly reply. Yes, Assistant Wen, I know what to do. When Jean hung up the phone, a thoughtful look on her face. Combining it with the young master's recent behavior, she was already quite certain that and the young master had an unusual relationship. Lin Shujia, pinching his chin, asked gossiping. The young master couldn't have really taken a liking to that could he? To actually make you personally oversee the training of a newcomer. Wen Jin's expression was serious. Regardless, we must do our own job well. I'll ask Uncle Da. Lin Shujia picked up his phone and dialed Xiao Dikang's number. Uncle Da, the young master seems to have a woman. Xiao Dikang was so shocked he nearly jumped out of his chair. What? The young master has a woman? Who is it? What does she look like?
How old is she?
What's her background? He fired questions like a machine gun, and Lin Shujia couldn't possibly answer them all. It was the first time he discovered that the old-fashioned Uncle Da also had such a gossipy side. Only when Xiao Dikang finally stopped did Lin Shujia cut in. Uncle Da, I'm just guessing, I don't know her specific situation or how far along they are with the young master. So, it was just a guess. Xiao Dikang instantly calmed down. He knew it. How could the young master suddenly have a woman? The young master already had someone in his heart. Lin Shujia then added. That woman is tall, long-legged, and beautiful. She's a perfect match for our young master. If the young master truly likes her, there's nothing wrong with that. Xiao Dikang asked unhurriedly. Tall and long-legged. How tall is that? Lin Shujia estimated. Probably around 1.8 meters. For a woman, that height is already excellent. 1.8 meters, such a coincidence? Could it be her? Xiao Dikang quickly pressed. Does she have a beauty mark below the right corner of her mouth? Lin Shujia's eyes widened in surprise. Uncle Da, how did you know? Do you know Hiyu too? Did the young master already tell you? Hiyu? It really was her. Xiao Dikang smiled contentedly. Treat her well from now on. If nothing unexpected happens, she will be our future young mistress. I have something else to do. I'll hang up first. Lin Shujia stood there, holding his phone, utterly bewildered, with only 5 words in his mind. Future young mistress. When Jean saw his unusual expression and asked in confusion, What's with that look? Did Uncle Da scold you for being nosy? Lin Shujia stammered. No. Uncle Da said Hiyu is our future young mistress she's the young mistress. When Jean was also stunned. She quickly called Xiao Dikang, but his line was busy. At this moment, Xiao Dikang was on the phone with Mu Qianfan. Congratulations, young master, you've got the beauty you wished for. Mu Qianfan's eyes turned cold. Ajai called you? Fearing Lin Shujia might be meddlesome, Mu Qianfan had specifically assigned Wen Jin to handle Hiyu's matters, yet he still found out. But besides these two, he trusted no one else more. Xiao Dikang chuckled. He cares a lot about the young master. Mu Qianfan said in a deep voice. I'm already married. I have my own arrangements for the family side.
I'll leave those two to you.
I don't want any news getting out. Married? Does the young master have to be so fast? Hiyu is already the young mistress. Does that mean there will be a little young master soon? Hiyu went to the director's office to ask Yang Yi about Yi Luo. Learning of her reputation and nickname in the industry, she hesitated about whether to tell Yang Yi to switch people. But before she could make a decision, Yi Luo arrived. Yi Luo apologized to her in front of Yang Yi. I'm sorry, Miss He. My attitude was bad just now, and I will change it in the future. Although Hiyu hadn't stated her business yet, Yang Yi immediately understood, from Yi Luo's attitude and Hiyu's sudden visit, that Hiyu had come to complain. Hiyu compromised, considering Yi Luo's sincere attitude and strong abilities, and also not wanting to make things difficult for Yang Yi. Yi Luo breathed a sigh of relief. She had already received Wen Jin's second call on her way to the director's office, warning her not to provoke Hiyu. After returning to the practice room, Yi Luo's attitude towards Hiyu changed 360 degrees. Thinking that the current boss of Jiren was Mu Qianfan, Hiyu called him. To avoid every call being a question, Hiyu awkwardly showed him some concern this time. Mr. Mu, how are you getting used to your first day at Jiren? Mu Qianfan, rarely receiving a call from his wife and being cared for the first time, was in a good mood. Not bad. Can you have lunch with me at noon? Hiyu pictured herself and Mu Qianfan together and awkwardly refused. That wouldn't be good, would it? If colleagues saw me with you, then she estimated that no one would guess they were married. They would only say she was using a man to get ahead, making Mu Qianfan a second Yang Yi. Mu Qianfan glanced at the surveillance footage of the practice room. It's fine. I'll give you the address, and you can come by yourself. I'll wait for you at the hotel. Before leaving work at noon, he received a text message from Mu Qianfan, which was the address and room number of the nearby Longfeng restaurant. Arriving at the restaurant, she entered the private room. The dishes were already served, and only Mu Qianfan was inside. He took a look. All were very light dishes, just to her taste, feeling tailor-made for her. But she wasn't familiar with him. You're here. Mu Qianfan smiled and stood up, gallantly pulling out the chair next to him for her. He responded, a bit unaccustomed to this kind of service, as she had always done things herself. Mu Qianfan also sat down. Sorry, I was hungry, so I didn't wait for you, and ordered first. See if it suits your taste. If not, ask the waiter to change it. He shook her head slightly. No need, these are very good. This was a private customized menu Mu Qianfan personally crafted for Hiyu. How could it not be good? Mu Qianfan feigned nonchalance and smiled. Good is good. Hiyu chatted for a few moments before asking, did you contact Teacher Yi today? Mu Qianfan smiled and countered. Do you think I have that much free time? He indeed hadn't contacted Yu Luo. He had just seen in the surveillance footage that they seemed to have had a dispute, and Hiyu had left, so he called Wen Jin. Hiyu thought he was right. Mu Qianfan had to be busy with Xingyue Media and now Jern Company, so how could he have so much time to pay attention to her matters? Mu Qianfan pretended not to know and asked, what's wrong? Is she a problem? Do we need to switch to someone else? Hiyu quickly shook her head and said with a bit of annoyance, no, it's my own problem. Even now, I can't wear high heels properly. Mu Qianfan was in an even better mood seeing her voluntarily share her worries. It's okay. When I'm free on the weekend, I'll help you. He didn't take Mu Qianfan's words to heart, thinking he was just saying it, but unexpectedly by the weekend, he really started taking action. After breakfast, Mu Qianfan took Hiyu out, planning to go to the mall to buy her high heels. His task for today was to accompany her shopping while she wore high heels. On the way to the mall, Mu Qianfan said to Hiyu, for someone in your situation, I think you can try mid-heels first. For Hiyu's sake, Mu Qianfan, who had never cared about women's clothing, specifically researched high heels and chose shoes with a thicker, not too high heel for her. Hiyu had also specifically looked into it and mentioned wearing mid-heels to Luo, but was rejected, so she was a bit hesitant. Teacher Yi said that's easy to become reliant. Mu Qianfan explained, no, we're just making a transition. Let's walk around more outside today, get used to mid-heels first, and if it feels okay, then we'll switch to high heels. With him being so considerate, what else could Hiyu say? Mu Qianfan took Hiyu to Linjiang City's luxury shopping center and entered an Italian brand store. He picked out a pair of shoes, but the price made Hiyu, in her current situation, wince. Hiyu had lived dependent on others since childhood. When her grandmother was alive, she lived like a princess, but once her grandmother passed, she became Cinderella. She didn't value money heavily, but she also couldn't bear to squander it. Looking at the multi-digit price, he whispered to Mu Qianfan, it's just for training to walk, can't we just buy any pair? No need to buy such expensive ones, it's a waste. Mu Qianfan said earnestly, this is the first thing I'm buying for you after our marriage, how can it be just any? But he wanted to say she felt unworthy, but her eyes caught sight of two familiar figures in the shop across the way. She instinctively fell silent, frowning. What's wrong? Mu Qianfan noticed Hiyu's strange expression, followed her gaze, and saw He Qingwan and Li Junyi selecting bags in the opposite store. He Qingwan seemed to sense their gaze, and suddenly looked over, meeting their eyes. She paused, then looked up at the store name. That was an international luxury brand, one she wouldn't dare enter easily. They actually went in? Would that man be willing to pay for Hiyu? If not, wouldn't that be a good show? She intimately linked her arm with Li Junyi's and in a saccharine voice said, Junyi, Shuei said that Italian shoe store is very good. Let's go take a look too? Li Junyi glanced sideways, smiling at He Qingwan. Shuei's taste has always been high, since she says it's good. It must be very good, he said, looking up and walking forward. Then he saw Hiyu. Hiyu had changed little after marriage compared to before. The only difference was the addition of an unfamiliar man beside her. Although they hadn't seen each other since the engagement banquet, he recognized the man who dared to challenge him publicly and make him lose face, even if he turned to ash. Enemies meeting inflamed his eyes, and his gaze instantly turned fierce. Mu Qianfan met Li Junyi's gaze calmly, letting out a soft, cold scoff. He had never put this so-called young masterly in his eyes from beginning to end. Seeing He Qingwan deliberately pulling Li Junyi over, Hiyu's first thought was to run. She wanted to escape this awkward situation and didn't want to face them. Mu Qianfan timely held Hiyu's hand and whispered gently in her ear, don't be afraid, I've got everything. Hiyu's heart stirred slightly, finally no longer instinctively pulling her hand away, but carefully grasping Mu Qianfan's hand tighter. Feeling Hiyu's return grip, a satisfied smile spread across Mu Qianfan's face as he instructed the sales associate, bring out the best high heels in your store for my wife to try on. Hiyu's face flushed, purely for Mu Qianfan's 3 words, my wife. Mu Qianfan looked at her faint blush and chuckled. They had been married for so long, sharing the same bed every night, yet she was still so shy, truly a pure and delicate little wife. Soon, He Qingwan, arm linked with Li Junyi, walked in. She pretended to just discover Hiyu, feigning difficulty as she said to Li Junyi, Xiao Yu is inside, maybe we shouldn't go in, to avoid embarrassing you. Li Junyi sneered, what do I have to be embarrassed about? It's certain clowns who should be embarrassed. Mu Qianfan completely ignored them, their words falling on deaf ears. He just looked at Hiyu. I think these are better than the previous pair, what do you think? Hiyu also tried her best not to pay attention to them, calmly saying, they're okay, but there's no rush for high heels and no need to buy such expensive ones. Li Junyi walked over, looking at them disdainfully. What? Is he so poor he can't even buy you a pair of shoes? Then you really married a good man. Hiyu felt an urge, even if it was just to shut Li Junyi up, she wanted to buy these shoes. Mu Qianfan, however, acted on Hiyu's impulse, pointing to the shoes she had just taken off and instructing the sales associate, wrap up this pair and that previous pair of mid-heels. 2 pairs of pure handmade, 6-figure price shoes were sold at once, making the sales associate beam with joy as she scurried to package them. She kindly reminded Hiyu, Xiaoyu, men are naturally image conscious, but you absolutely mustn't lose your head trying to prove anything to us. As she spoke, the sales associate already brought the packaged shoes and invited Mu Qianfan to pay. Hiyu was indeed worried about the price of the shoes, but when she looked at Mu Qianfan, she saw him take the bags and give her a comforting look. Li Junyi scoffed. Oh, you actually bought them. You won't buy them in front of me and then return them after I leave, will you? The sales associate felt the situation was not good and wanted to remind Mu Qianfan that their shoes did not support unconditional returns, but then she saw him pull out a black card. The sales associate relaxed. A person with such a card wouldn't care about this amount of money at all. He Qingwan's eyes lit up. This was a top-tier global credit card. Its owner must be a prominent figure. Li Junyi's face changed. He dreamed of having such a card. It was a symbol of identity and status. Hiyu's eyes, however, dimmed slightly, and the doubt buried in her heart resurfaced. Who exactly was he? Mu Qianfan handed the mid-heels to Hiyu. Wife, change into these and let's go. We have a lot to do today. Don't waste time on irrelevant people. Li Junyi's face became distorted. Having a black card is so great? In Linjiang City, I'm the king. Just you wait. I'll make you and your company disappear forever. Mu Qianfan was arrogantly unrestrained. I've been waiting a long time, so I don't mind waiting a little longer, but my patience is limited. You better be quick.